My hand was trembling uncontrollably when I dropped the crystal vase. The shattering sound echoed throughout the entire hotel lobby, and my breath caught in my throat. I quickly crouched down to gather the scattered shards, but then Manager Sterling grabbed my arm with a brutal grip that made me wince. "Enough, Paul," he hissed loud enough for every guest in the vicinity to hear clearly. "You're fired. Pack your things and get out of here immediately." My cheeks burned with embarrassment as humiliation washed over me in waves. It was just a vase, a simple accident that could happen to anyone, but Sterling treated me as though I had committed some unforgivable crime. All around us, guests were whispering among themselves, and I could feel the weight of their eyes pressing down on me, judging, pitying, dissecting every moment of my public disgrace. I was an Omega, and this world never let me forget what that meant. This dose of humiliation served as yet another daily reminder that people like me held no real value in society's eyes. I closed my eyes tightly and took a deep breath, desperately trying to hold back the tears that threatened to spill down my face. "Please, I need this job," I whispered, desperation choking my voice until it came out broken and small. Sterling simply sneered at me with open contempt. "Should have thought about that before breaking expensive property. Now move before I call security to drag you out." I stumbled backward toward the staff room, tears blurring my vision so badly I could barely see where I was going. This job had been my last hope. My rent was overdue, bills were piling up on my tiny desk, and no reputable establishment would hire a low-rank Omega like me. But now even this opportunity was gone, vanished in the span of a single careless moment. I stood before my locker with trembling hands as I pulled out my worn jacket, feeling completely defeated and utterly hopeless about my future. The weight of failure pressed down on my chest, making it difficult to breathe properly. Then suddenly a roar echoed through the entire building with such power that I froze in place, every muscle locked. "Where is he?" That voice, deep, commanding, absolutely dangerous, made my spine freeze solid. I peered through the crack in the door and witnessed an alpha storming into the lobby like an approaching hurricane. His presence was suffocating, his dominance filling every inch of the space until it felt like the air itself had changed. Dark hair was perfectly styled despite his obvious fury, his sharp jaw clenched tight with barely contained rage, and his eyes, those piercing gray eyes, blazed with fire. This was Kaysen, the actual owner of this hotel, someone who rarely made appearances on the main floor. I had only glimpsed him before from a distance, passing through doorways or riding elevators. Never this close and certainly never this intense. "Who the hell fired my employee?" Kaysen's voice made the walls seem to shake with its force. Manager Sterling's face went pale, and his previous confidence cracked instantly like thin ice. "Sir, he broke an expensive vase. I was simply maintaining proper discipline and standards." "Just what?" Kaysen cut his words off sharply, stepping closer with lethal grace that reminded me of a predator closing in. "Just humiliating someone in my lobby where clients can witness it. Just making termination decisions you have absolutely no authority to make without consulting me first." My heart was thundering so loudly in my chest, I was certain everyone could hear it. This was happening because of me? I had never imagined that any alpha, especially someone as powerful and important as Kaysen, would actually stand up for someone like me. The lobby had gone completely silent. Every guest, every staff member stood frozen, watching this confrontation unfold with wide eyes. Sterling opened his mouth to respond, but no words came out. He looked like a man who had just realized he had made a catastrophic mistake. Kaysen took another step forward, and the sheer presence of his alpha aura made several people unconsciously step back. "I asked you a direct question. Sterling, what gave you the authority to fire anyone without my explicit approval? This hotel operates under MI rules, not your petty power trips." I thought, the vase was valuable and he's just— Sterling stammered, clearly scrambling for justification. "He's just what?" Kaysen's voice dropped to a dangerous whisper that was somehow more terrifying than his previous roar. "Finish that sentence very carefully." Sterling's mouth snapped shut. The implications hung heavy in the air. Everyone knew exactly what he had been about to say. Just an Omega. Just a cleaner. Just someone disposable and unimportant. I pressed myself against the wall of the back room, heart racing wildly as I processed what was happening. Part of me wanted to run, to disappear before this situation escalated further. But another part of me, a part I usually kept buried deep, felt something else entirely. Hope, maybe, or perhaps just shock that someone was defending me for the first time in my life. Kaysen's eyes swept across the lobby, taking in every watching face, every guest who had witnessed my humiliation. When he spoke again, his voice carried absolute authority. This establishment prides itself on treating every employee with dignity and respect, regardless of their designation. Anyone who cannot uphold that standard has no place working here. He turned his full attention back to Sterling, and even from my hiding spot, I could see the manager physically shrink under that gaze. You're dismissed, Sterling. Effective immediately. Security will escort you out once you've collected your personal belongings. You have 10 minutes. The lobby erupted in shocked murmurs. Sterling's face flushed red with a mixture of humiliation and disbelief. You can't be serious. Over some clumsy Omega who can't eat. I suggest you stop talking right now. Kaysen interrupted coldly. Before you make this situation even worse for yourself. Leave. Now. I watched as Sterling, trembling with suppressed rage, grabbed his jacket and stormed toward the exit, muttering under his breath. The other staff members remained in shocked silence, none of them having expected this outcome. Nobody ever defended Omegas. Nobody ever chose us over their own convenience or comfort. Kaysen stood in the center of the lobby for a moment longer, his presence still dominating the space. Then slowly, deliberately, he turned toward the back room where I was hiding. My breath caught as his eyes found mine through the crack in the door. Paul, he said, his voice suddenly gentler but no less intense. Come out here. You're not in any trouble. I need to speak with you. My legs felt weak as I hesitated, uncertainty warring with the strange pull I felt toward this alpha I barely knew. Everything had changed in the span of minutes, and I had no idea what came next. I remained standing in the back room, still processing everything, when Kaysen's scent hit me with unexpected force, cedarwood mixed with something dark and intoxicating that made my Omega senses go into overdrive. My instincts responded immediately, every nerve in my body suddenly alert and hyper-aware of his proximity. I had never experienced an alpha's presence this intensely before. In my previous jobs, alphas had always kept their distance from me, as though I carried some contagious disease, treating me as untouchable and beneath their notice. Kaysen directed a cold stare toward the spot where Sterling had been standing moments ago. Several staff members were still lingering, uncertain whether they should disperse or continue watching this unprecedented drama unfold. Everyone back to work, Kaysen commanded without raising his voice. The authority in his tone was enough. People scattered immediately, returning to their stations while casting curious glances over their shoulders. He approached the back room entrance and I instinctively took a step backward even though part of me was drawn toward him in a way I couldn't explain or control. Paul. Kaysen's voice softened as he opened the door wider and found me pressed into the corner, still trembling from the aftermath of everything. Come out. You're safe now. Nobody is going to hurt you or threaten your position here. I emerged hesitantly, keeping my eyes downcast because I was still shaken and overwhelmed by the entire situation. Sir, I'm so sorry about the vase. I'll find a way to pay for it somehow. I promise. I can work extra shifts or— Look at me, he commanded gently, and the alpha authority in his voice made it impossible to disobey. When I reluctantly raised my eyes to meet his, I saw something unexpected there. Genuine concern, warmth, and perhaps something even deeper that I couldn't quite identify. You don't owe me anything, Paul. Sterling had absolutely no right to treat you that way, especially not in front of guests and other staff members. That behavior was completely unacceptable. Words stuck in my throat as emotions threatened to overwhelm me. No alpha had ever stood up for me before. Never. Not once in my entire life. Omegas like me were always expendable, easily replaceable, considered the lowest tier of the workforce. You're not fired, Kaysen stated clearly, then paused before continuing. In fact, I'm rehiring you with triple your current salary. You deserve respect and proper compensation for your work. My mouth fell open in shock as my mind struggled to process his words. Triple? Sir, I don't understand. Why would you do that for someone like me? Because it's the right thing to do, he said simply, though his eyes conveyed a message I couldn't fully decipher. And you need to understand that you won't have to tolerate any form of mistreatment while working here. Not anymore. Is that understood? My heart was doing strange flutters in my chest, like butterflies had suddenly taken residence there. But sir, I'm just a cleaner. People will talk, they'll create rumors and think terrible things. Let them think whatever they want, Kaysen said firmly, stepping slightly closer until I could feel the heat radiating from his body. The only thing that matters to me is your well-being and ensuring you're rated fairly. And please, call me Kaysen when we're not around other staff members. The way he said it, as though I was something precious rather than just another disposable omega, made my cheeks flush with heat. I quickly averted my gaze, suddenly aware of how dangerous this territory felt. The dynamic between alphas and omegas was always complicated, fraught with power imbalances and societal expectations. And someone like Kaysen was completely out of my league. He was powerful, wealthy, respected throughout the city. I was nothing in comparison. Rest today, he continued softly, genuine care evident in his voice. Starting tomorrow, you'll move into proper quarters. No more struggling in that cramped staff dormitory. I'll have everything arranged and ready for you. I wanted to thank him properly, to express somehow what this meant to me, but words failed me completely. All I could manage was a shaky nod, my throat too tight with emotion to speak. As he turned to walk away, I finally found my voice and whispered, "Thank you, Kaysen." He paused at the doorway and glanced back with a half-smile that made my heart skip several beats. Then he was gone, leaving me standing there alone with a question echoing relentlessly through my mind. Why me? What had he possibly seen in someone like me that would make him care this much? The rest of the day passed in a surreal haze. Other staff members approached me with newfound caution. Their attitudes shifted dramatically. Some looked curious, others resentful, but nobody dared to openly disrespect me after witnessing what had happened to Sterling. I couldn't shake the memory of Kaysen's scent, the intensity of his gaze, the protective edge in his voice when he had defended me. Omegas weren't supposed to inspire that kind of reaction from powerful alphas. We were meant to be invisible, insignificant, easily overlooked. Yet somehow, impossibly, I had caught the attention of the one alpha who could change everything about my life. The question was whether that change would ultimately be for better or worse. Experience had taught me to be cautious about hope, but for the first time in years I felt a small spark of it kindling in my chest. As evening approached and I prepared to leave for the day, I caught sight of myself in one of the lobby's ornate mirrors. I looked the same as always, tired, ordinary, unremarkable. Nothing about my appearance explained why Kaysen had chosen to intervene so dramatically on my behalf. Maybe I would never understand his reasons. Or maybe, just maybe, I would get the chance to find out. The thought both terrified and thrilled me in equal measure as I stepped out into the darkening streets. My worn jacket pulled tight against the evening chill. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new uncertainties. But tonight, for the first time in longer than I could remember, I went home with something more than despair weighing on my shoulders. I went home with possibility. The following morning, when I arrived at the hotel's new wing with my meager belongings, reality crashed down on me with crushing weight. Kaysen hadn't arranged for me to move into the standard staff quarters. Instead, he had given me a private suite on the executive level, where only high-ranking employees and management resided. This was excessive, dangerously excessive. The room itself was far more spacious than anywhere I had ever lived. It featured proper furniture that wasn't falling apart, an attached bathroom with actual hot water pressure, and even a small kitchenette. My anxiety spiked immediately because I knew exactly what people would think. Rumors would spread like wildfire, gossip would flourish, and I would become the center of unwanted attention. And I was absolutely right. When I entered the staff dining hall around noon to grab a meal, whispers erupted immediately. Other staff members stared at me as though I were a walking scandal, their expressions ranging from curiosity to open contempt. I tried my best to ignore them, keeping my head down as I quietly picked up a tray. "Heard he's the boss's new favorite," a female server announced deliberately loud enough for me to hear every word clearly. She was speaking to her colleague but making sure her voice carried. Typical Omega tactics, you know. Can't get ahead on actual merit, so they use other methods instead. My stomach twisted painfully. These accusations weren't new. Omegas had heard them forever. the implication that we possessed no real talent or value beyond manipulation and seduction. I grabbed my coffee quickly, just wanting to escape this hostile environment, but then someone deliberately collided with my tray with significant force. Hot coffee splashed across my shirt and chest, burning my skin through the thin fabric. "Oops," the staff member said with fake concern, though her smirk revealed her true intentions. "So clumsy. I guess you're not good at anything useful, are you?" My eyes stung, partially from the pain of the scalding liquid, but mostly from the humiliation of being targeted so publicly. I was about to quietly start cleaning up the mess, reaching for napkins, when a firm hand gripped my shoulder. "What's going on here?" Kaysen's voice cut through the room like ice, filled with unmistakable authority. Everyone instantly froze as though time itself had stopped. Kaysen rarely visited the staff areas, especially not during meal times. But there he stood, his presence dominating the entire space, glaring at the server who had accidentally bumped into me. His eyes blazed with clear anger. "Nothing, sir," she stammered nervously, her previous confidence evaporating. "Just an accident." "Accidents don't happen with that much obvious intention," Kaysen interrupted sharply, his voice like steel cutting through her excuses. "I witnessed exactly what you did. Apologize to Paul, right now." She reluctantly turned toward me and forced out, "Sorry," though her eyes held no sincerity whatsoever, only resentment at being caught and called out. Kaysen's expression softened instantly as he turned his attention to me, the transformation so complete it was like watching a switch flip. "Come with me. Let's get you cleaned up properly and into dry clothes." I wanted to protest, to insist that I could handle this myself, but his alpha presence made compliance feel inevitable. We walked silently to the elevator while I felt the weight of every staff member's stare boring into my back. The tension in the air was suffocating. Once the elevator doors closed and we were alone, Kaysen finally spoke. "This isn't the first time, is it? They've been treating you this way since yesterday's incident." I avoided eye contact, focusing intently on the elevator buttons. "It's fine. I can handle it. People just need time to adjust to the situation." "It's not fine," he growled, moving closer. His scent overwhelmed my senses. Protective, possessive, and something else I couldn't identify. But that made my pulse race. "Paul, I need to know about every problem you face here. You shouldn't feel attacked in your own workplace. Just tell me and I'll handle it immediately." "Why?" The word exploded from me as my frustration finally boiled over. "Why do you care so much? I'm just a cleaner, Kaysen. To you I should be nothing. We come from completely different worlds." The elevator's lighting illuminated his face sharply, and I watched his jaw clench tight. "You think I'm helping you out of pity? Is that honestly what you believe this is about? Then what else could it be?" I challenged, finally meeting his intense gaze directly. "Because I don't understand, and everyone else thinks I'm doing something inappropriate to earn your attention." The elevator doors opened onto his private floor. He gently grasped my wrist and guided me inside, his touch sending unexpected electricity through my arm. "You want the truth? Fine. But not out here in the hallway where anyone might overhear. Come to my office." My heart raced with a mixture of confusion and anticipation as he led me down the corridor toward his office. Whatever he was about to reveal felt monumental, life-changing in ways I couldn't yet comprehend. The air between us crackled with unspoken tension. Was I ready for his truth? Did I even have a choice anymore? Events had been set in motion that I couldn't stop or control, and all I could do was follow where they led and hope I survived whatever came next. Part of me wanted to run, to protect myself from potential heartbreak. But another part, the part that had felt impossibly drawn to Kaysen from the moment he had defended me, desperately needed to know why he had chosen to intervene, why he continued to protect me despite the complications it created. As we reached his office door, I took a deep breath and steeled myself for whatever revelation awaited me on the other side. My life had already changed irrevocably in the past 24 hours. What was one more earth-shattering truth? Kaysen opened the door and gestured for me to enter first. I stepped inside, acutely aware that whatever happened next would determine the entire course of my future, for better or for worse. Kaysen's office was imposing in every sense. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a breathtaking view of the city sprawling below. Dark wood furniture radiated power and authority, and his dominant aura seemed to fill every corner of the space. He locked the door behind us with a decisive click, and suddenly the room felt suffocatingly intimate, charged with an energy I couldn't name. I instinctively backed up a few steps, my body responding to the intensity of the moment, but he approached slowly with movements that were controlled yet somehow still radiating barely restrained emotion. "Do you know what it's like?" he began in a low voice that sent shivers down my spine. His eyes locked onto mine with unwavering focus. "To see someone and feel your entire world shift in a single moment. To have everything you thought you understood about yourself suddenly become irrelevant." My breath caught in my throat. "Kason, the first time I saw you, you were cleaning in the basement during a late evening shift," he continued, raw honesty coloring every word. "Your scent hit me like a physical force, lavender mixed with something uniquely sweet that I had never experienced before in my life. It struck me so hard I literally couldn't breathe, couldn't think straight, couldn't do anything except stand there. You didn't even notice me standing on the stairs, completely frozen, just watching you work with such careful attention to detail." I swallowed nervously, my throat suddenly dry. This was exactly what I had been afraid he might say, the confession I both desperately wanted and feared in equal measure. "I'm an alpha who has always maintained perfect control over every aspect of my life," he said, stepping even closer until there was barely any space remaining between our bodies. "Business decisions, personal relationships, investments, everything meticulously calculated and planned down to the smallest detail. But with you, all that control just vanishes, Paul. This need to protect you, to keep you close, to see you smile, to know you're safe and happy, it's not rational or logical. It's pure instinct that I cannot ignore no matter how hard I try." "You can't possibly mean that," I whispered, shaking my head in disbelief even as my heart hammered against my ribs. "You barely know me, I'm not special or remarkable in any way. Then let me get to know you properly," he said urgently, his hands coming up to gently cup my face with a tenderness that made my chest ache. "I'm not forcing you into anything, Paul. I would never do that. But don't stand there and deny that you feel something too. When I come near you, your heartbeat accelerates. I can hear it. Your scent changes, becomes sweeter, more inviting. Your body responds to my presence just as strongly as mine responds to yours." My face flushed with heat because everything he said was absolutely true. And apparently he had been paying close enough attention to notice these subtle changes. My omega biology responded to his presence in ways I couldn't control or suppress, no matter how much I might want to. But acknowledging these feelings felt terrifying and overwhelming. "I'm scared," I admitted, feeling moisture gather in my eyes. "The dynamic between alphas and omegas is never equal, Kason. Society has rules and expectations that are impossible to escape. I can't become your charity case, someone you feel obligated to help, and I don't want you risking your reputation, your business, your entire life for someone like me. That's not fair to you." His expression shifted to something almost pained, as though my words had physically hurt him. "Charity? Paul, this has nothing to do with charity or obligation. You've become my sanity, my source of peace in a chaotic world, the reason I look forward to each new day. You're everything except charity." He leaned forward as though preparing to kiss me, the distance between us narrowing to almost nothing, and my heart felt like it might actually stop from the anticipation building in my chest. But at precisely that moment, his phone rang sharp and insistent, completely destroying the charged atmosphere between us. Kason released a frustrated growl that rumbled deep in his chest before reluctantly stepping back and answering the call. "What is it?" His tone was clipped with barely suppressed irritation. I watched his expression carefully as he listened to whoever was speaking on the other end, seeing his face gradually darken with each passing second. "When did they arrive? How many? Fine. I'll be right there." He ended the call and looked at me, visible conflict evident in his eyes. "There's an emergency meeting downstairs. Board members have arrived unannounced, and apparently the situation is urgent enough that they're demanding my immediate presence. I really don't want to leave right now, but it's okay," I said quickly, though disappointment was clearly written across my face. "You should go. It sounds genuinely important if they came without warning." "Paul," he said firmly, stepping close again and grasping my hand tightly, "promise me you'll wait for me here in this office. Please. We need to finish this conversation properly. I need you to understand everything I'm feeling. Everything this means to me. I nodded hesitantly, unable to form words around the lump in my throat. Okay, I'll wait. He released a sigh of relief and quickly pressed a kiss to my forehead before leaving, an action that left me completely stunned and motionless. When the door closed behind him, I stood there alone, my fingers unconsciously touching the spot where his lips had briefly made contact. Kaysen had feelings for me, real intense, all-consuming feelings that went far beyond simple attraction or passing interest. But was this truly sustainable? Society didn't accept relationships between powerful alphas and low-rank omegas. The social barriers were enormous and deeply entrenched. And if the board members discovered that Kaysen had developed romantic interest in someone like me, someone who worked as a cleaner in his hotel, I slowly walked toward the windows, staring out at the city lights that blurred through my unshed tears of confusion and fear. Did I actually deserve this kind of happiness? Or was this merely a beautiful but temporary illusion that would inevitably shatter when reality came crashing down around us? The office felt enormous and empty without Kaysen's presence filling it. I wrapped my arms around myself, trying to provide comfort that didn't quite work. Every rational part of my brain screamed that this was impossible, that I should walk away now before things became even more complicated. But my heart, my traitorous, hopeful heart, whispered that maybe, just maybe, this could actually work. I had spent my entire life being told that omegas like me were worthless, disposable, undeserving of anything better than the scraps society decided to throw our way. And now here was Kaysen, one of the most powerful alphas in the city, telling me I mattered to him in ways that defied all logic and social convention. How was I supposed to process that? How was I supposed to believe it when everything I had experienced suggested it couldn't possibly be true? I was still standing by the window, lost in these circular thoughts, when I heard footsteps approaching in the hallway outside. My heart lifted, thinking Kaysen had returned more quickly than expected. But when the door opened without warning, it wasn't him standing in the doorway. I had been pacing nervously in Kaysen's office for almost an hour, my anxiety building with each passing minute, when the door suddenly opened without any preceding knock. But the person who entered definitely wasn't Kaysen. An elegant woman with sharp, aristocratic features swept into the room with commanding presence. Her heels clicked authoritatively against the polished floor with each calculated step. Expensive perfume immediately filled the air around her, and her cold gray eyes, bearing a striking resemblance to Kaysen's features but completely lacking any warmth, scanned me with obvious disdain as though I were nothing more than an unwanted insect she had discovered in her home. "So you're the Omega causing all this completely unnecessary chaos," she stated icily, making no effort whatsoever to introduce herself first. My heart plummeted, and I instinctively took a step backward. "Who are you? And how did you get in here without—" "Catherine Hale, Kaysen's aunt and senior member of the board of directors," she announced crisply, her arms crossing over her designer suit in a gesture of clear superiority. "And I'm here to deliver a very clear, non-negotiable message. Stay away from my nephew. Permanently and completely." My stomach dropped as though I had just fallen from a great height. "I haven't done anything wrong. I didn't ask for any of this." "Don't play innocent with me," she snapped sharply, taking another intimidating step forward. "Do you honestly think I don't recognize the games that omegas like you play? Pretty face, helpless act, calculated vulnerability, and suddenly a powerful alpha starts making completely irrational decisions that endanger everything he's built. Kaysen has been taking emotional actions lately instead of logical business decisions, and that's extremely detrimental to both the company and his future prospects. He needs a suitable alpha partner from a respectable, established family, not some low-class cleaner who's clearly manipulating him for personal gain." "That's enough." Kaysen's voice exploded through the room like thunder, making the very air seem to vibrate. He stood in the doorway radiating fury so intense it was almost visible, waves of alpha dominance rolling off him with physical force. I had never seen him this angry before, not even when he confronted Sterling. Catherine barely reacted, clearly accustomed to confrontations and unmoved by displays of temper. "Kaysen, be reasonable for once in your life," she said coldly, not backing down an inch. "This Omega will completely destroy everything you've worked to build. Think rationally about the company, about your father's legacy, about your responsibilities. My future belongs to me and me alone." Kaysen growled dangerously, moving to stand protectively between Catherine and me. And if you or anyone else on the board has a problem with my personal choices, then you're all welcome to submit your resignations immediately. I'm choosing Paul, and that decision is final and non-negotiable. Catherine's eyes narrowed with calculated precision. Choose him and lose absolutely everything you've built over the years. The board will vote you out, Kaysen. Your father built this empire from nothing through decades of sacrifice and hard work. Are you really prepared to throw it all away for an Omega you've known for less than a week? Think carefully about what you're sacrificing here. Kaysen's jaw clenched so tightly I could see the muscle jumping, and I could clearly see the conflict warring across his face. This was an impossible choice. Me or his entire legacy. His company, everything he had dedicated his life to building and maintaining, and I couldn't let him make this sacrifice. Not for me. It wasn't fair to ask this of him. Stop. Please, I finally said, my voice shaking badly, despite my efforts to sound steady. I stepped around Kaysen to face Catherine directly, meeting her cold stare head-on. Kaysen, your aunt is right about this. I'm not worth what you'd be giving up. I can't be responsible for destroying your career, your family legacy, everything you've worked for. It's simply not worth it. Paul, no. Kaysen turned toward me urgently, desperation flooding his eyes. Don't do this. Don't let her manipulate you into walking away. I'm not being manipulated, I said as firmly as I could manage, even though tears were already gathering in my eyes. I'm being practical and realistic. You deserve a better life than this. A better partner than me. Someone who actually comes from your world. Someone who can stand beside you without causing problems. Please just let me go. It's better this way for everyone involved. Catherine's lips curved into a satisfied smirk, clearly believing she had won this battle. But I ignored her completely, focusing only on Kaysen as I continued speaking directly to him. Thank you for everything you've done for me. I'll never forget your kindness or how you made me feel valued for the first time in my life. But this has to end here, before things get worse. I gently pushed past him and rushed toward the door, moving past Catherine's triumphant expression, barely managing to hold back the sobs that were desperately trying to escape my throat. My chest felt unbearably tight, breathing had become difficult, and sobs kept choking me as though I were drowning in my own emotions. This was the right decision logically and rationally. Kaysen would be happy and successful without me dragging him down. He would recover from this eventually, find someone appropriate, and build the life he truly deserved. But when I frantically crossed the hotel lobby and burst outside into the pouring rain, sudden realization struck me with crushing force. I had nowhere to go. I literally possessed nothing except this job and this place. Without Kaysen's protection, I would probably be fired again within days, if not hours. I collapsed in a corner of the building's side alley against the wet brick wall, my body shaking violently with silent sobs as rain soaked through my clothes completely. Paul! Kaysen's voice cut through the sound of falling rain, desperate and breathless. I tried to hide my face as he found me huddled in the corner, but it was useless. He was completely soaked, his expensive shirt clinging to his body, but he obviously didn't care about his appearance at all. He dropped to his knees and gripped my shoulders firmly, forcing me to look at him. Don't you dare run from me like this ever again. Look at me right now. Your career, your entire future, I choked out between sobs that wouldn't stop coming, means absolutely nothing without you in it, he said fiercely, his voice raw with overwhelming emotion. Listen to me very carefully, Paul. I will rebuild the board if necessary. I'll bring back investors or find new ones. I'll create an entirely new company from scratch, if that's what it takes. But losing you is not an option I'm willing to consider. Not now, not ever. You are what truly matters to me. His eyes held such raw honesty that it felt like it was breaking something inside me emotionally. But it's going to be so incredibly hard, Kaysen. Society won't accept us. Your family will oppose this. Business partners will question your judgment. Then we'll fight every single battle together as a team, he said with absolute determination, using his thumbs to wipe away the tears that mixed with rain on my cheeks. But I need your promise right now, no more running away from this, from us, from what we could have together. Face it with me instead of alone. My heart was pounding so hard I thought it might break through my chest as I stared into his desperate, loving eyes. Could I actually be brave enough for this? Could I stand beside him through the difficult battles ahead while aiming all the potential consequences? Promise me, Paul, he said softly, though his voice cracked slightly with emotion. Please promise me you'll stay. I took a shaky, deep breath that felt like it filled my entire body, and finally whispered with genuine conviction, I promise. I won't run away again. I'll stay and face this with you. 3 months had passed since that rainy night when everything changed, and the transformation had been nothing short of remarkable. Though surprisingly, everything had shifted in a better direction than anyone could have reasonably expected or predicted. Kaysen had faced his entire board of directors in what became a historic meeting that people were still discussing. Almost half the board members had resigned immediately, unable or unwilling to accept his decisions regarding both his personal life and his new management philosophy. But surprisingly, new investors had stepped forward, younger individuals with modern mindsets who were genuinely accepting of different relationship dynamics and progressive business practices. The hotel's business was actually flourishing more than ever before under this new, progressive and genuinely inclusive management style. Employee satisfaction had increased dramatically, customer reviews had improved, and profit margins were climbing steadily, and I was no longer just a cleaner struggling to survive from paycheck to paycheck. Kaysen had invested in my education and development, arranging for proper professional training, enrolling me in event coordination courses, and mentoring me personally. Now I held the position of junior event manager, and I had earned it through genuine hard work and demonstrated capability rather than just through my connection to Kaysen. People had slowly but surely begun treating me with actual respect. Not because I was Kaysen's partner, but because I had consistently proven my worth and ability through dedication and results. The whispers and accusations hadn't completely disappeared, but they had diminished significantly as I demonstrated my competence day after day. But the most meaningful and profound change had been in my relationship with Kaysen himself. We had deliberately taken our time, carefully building trust through honest communication and genuine understanding. What we shared now wasn't merely physical attraction or temporary infatuation. It was a real, deep connection based firmly on mutual respect, admiration, and authentic love. Tonight was special, more significant than any other evening we had shared together. An intimate dinner had been arranged on the hotel's private rooftop terrace. City lights twinkled beautifully below like earthbound stars. Soft instrumental music played gently in the background, and Kaysen carefully held my hand across the candlelit table, his thumb tracing gentle patterns on my skin. Do you remember when you told me you weren't worthy of me? He asked softly, his voice warm with affection. That day in the rain when you tried to walk away forever? Please don't remind me of that moment, I said, blushing deeply and looking down at our intertwined fingers. I was being incredibly foolish and letting fear control all my decisions. I was so terrified of what might happen. No, he said seriously, using his free hand to lift my chin gently until I met his gaze. You were scared, and you had every right to be given how society had treated you your entire life. But look at where we are now. Look at how far you've come, how much you've grown. Look at how far we've come together despite every obstacle. Now, I paused, looking deeply into his warm gray eyes that radiated pure love and acceptance. Now I genuinely believe that we both deserve this happiness we've found. And I'm incredibly grateful that you refused to give up on us even when I was ready to surrender. Kaysen smiled, that rare, genuine smile that was reserved exclusively for me. The one that never failed to make my heart feel like it was melting. I actually want to ask you something extremely important tonight. He stood gracefully from his chair and suddenly produced a small velvet box from his pocket. My breath caught completely in my throat, and my heart began hammering so loudly I was certain he could hear it. Was this really happening? Was this truly the moment I thought it might be? Paul, he said, his voice thick with genuine emotion that made it slightly rough. I know our relationship is unconventional and goes against many of society's established standards and expectations. I know we'll face challenges ahead, both from others and possibly from circumstances we can't yet predict. But I cannot imagine living even a single day without you, not one moment without knowing you're in my life. Will you officially become my mate, permanently, legally, in absolutely every way possible? Will you marry me? Tears streamed uncontrollably down my face, but these were purely happy tears, born from overwhelming joy rather than sorrow or fear. Yes, I choked out emotionally, my voice breaking with the intensity of my feelings. Yes, Kason, forever and always. Yes, I love you more than I ever thought possible. He pulled me into a deep, passionate kiss that conveyed everything words couldn't express, claiming, promising, loving all at once. When we finally broke apart, both breathless and slightly dizzy, our foreheads pressed together while we both smiled through tears of happiness. I love you more than any words could ever adequately express, he whispered against my lips, his breath warm on my skin. I love you too, now and always, I replied, my heart feeling fuller than at any previous point in my entire life. This journey hadn't been easy, and I knew perfectly well that future challenges would inevitably arise. Society changed slowly, and prejudices didn't disappear overnight simply because we wished them away. But now we stood together, a determined alpha and a brave omega, fighting outdated expectations side by side, building our own beautiful destiny on our own terms rather than accepting what others tried to dictate. And for the first time in my entire life, I finally genuinely felt something I had never experienced before. I was enough exactly as I was, not despite being an omega but simply because I was Paul, deeply loved, truly valued for who I actually was, and completely seen and accepted in ways I had never imagined possible. Kason lovingly kissed my hand where the mating bond mark now gleamed softly under the moonlights, serving as permanent proof of our commitment to each other. Are you ready for forever with all its challenges and beauty, its difficulties and triumphs? I smiled peacefully, leaning into his protective warmth and secure embrace, feeling safer and more content than ever before. With you by my side supporting me, always and forever, no matter what comes. The city sprawled below us, millions of lights representing millions of lives, each person fighting their own battles and seeking their own happiness. Some would approve of our relationship, many would judge it, and others would try to undermine it. But none of that truly mattered anymore. What mattered was this. We had found each other against impossible odds. We had fought for this relationship when everyone said it couldn't work. We had built something real and lasting from the ruins of societal expectations and prejudice. Kason pulled me closer and I rested my head against his shoulder, breathing in his familiar scent that had become synonymous with home and safety. The future stretched before us, uncertain but no longer frightening, because whatever came next, we would face it together as true partners in every sense of the word. This was our beginning, not the end of struggles or challenges, but the start of something worth fighting for. And I had never been more certain of anything in my life than I was of this love we shared.